September 17th, 2012. Detective Michael Reyes rubbed his tired eyes as he stared at the photos of Rebecca and Jason Chun. The young couple smiled from their wedding picture, she in a sleek white dress, he in a tailored suit, both radiating happiness. The image stood in stark contrast to the chaos their disappearance had unleashed. 3 days earlier, the Chens had left their Upper West Side apartment for their regular morning run in Central Park. Security footage showed them entering the park at 5:47 a.m. They never came out. Any updates from the search teams? Reyes asked his partner, Detective Sarah Wilcox, who had just entered the precinct conference room they converted into an investigation hub. Nothing conclusive, Wilcox replied, setting down 2 cups of coffee. 9 units lost their scent near Bethesda Fountain. It's like they vanished into thin air. The timeline they'd established was frustratingly bare. Rebecca, 32, a pediatrician at Mount Sinai, and Jason, 34, a financial analyst at Goldman Sachs, were creatures of habit. Their doorman confirmed they left their building at 5:30 a.m., dressed in running clothes. A park security camera caught them jogging along their usual route. A grounds worker remembered seeing them near Cherry Hill. After that, nothing. No bank withdrawals. No cell phone activity. No passport usage. Their phones, later found in bushes near the Ramble, showed no signs of struggle, just a deliberate placement off the main path. What about the witness near Bow Bridge? Reyes asked, pinning another photo to their timeline board. Unreliable, Wilcox sighed. Change your story twice now. First, she saw them arguing with a tall man. Then she thought they were talking to each other. Now she's not sure she saw them at all. The door opened, and Captain Rivera entered, his expression grim. We've got media camped outside. The Chens were prominent enough that this is becoming a high-profile case. He glanced at their timeline. Tell me you have something. Reyes shook his head. No ransom demands. No evidence of foul play. No history of mental health issues or reason to flee. They were by all accounts happily married professionals with strong ties to the community. Their families are arriving tomorrow, Wilcox added. Rebecca's parents from California. Jason's from Chicago. Rivera nodded. Keep digging. Check financial records again. Interview colleagues, friends, the doorman. Someone knows something. He paused at the door and prepared for the possibility that we might not find them alive. After he left, Reyes studied the map of Central Park, where they marked the couple's known movements. What happens in a public park at dawn that makes 2 people disappear without a trace? Wilcox had no answer. Outside the precinct windows, rain began to fall over Manhattan, washing away whatever evidence might still remain in the park. If stories like this keep you questioning long after the video ends, help us keep them alive. Hit the like button and subscribe to Gone Cold. Every week, we share real-life mysteries, unsolved disappearances, and cases that still haunt investigators and families alike. December 8th, 2012, 3 months after the Chen's disappearance, the investigation had hit a wall. The case file had grown thick with interviews, analyses, and dead-end leads, but the central mystery remained unsolved. Detective Reyes pinned a new article to the bulletin board. Missing couple case goes cold. The headline stung, though it wasn't inaccurate. Despite extensive searches, hundreds of interviews, and a $100,000 reward offered by the families, they were no closer to finding the Chens. You need to go home, Mike, Wilcox said, finding him still at his desk well past midnight. You're obsessing. Something doesn't add up, Reyes muttered. Successful couple, no enemies, no financial troubles, no signs of marital problems. People like that don't just vanish. The investigation had been exhaustive. They drained ponds in Central Park, searched wooded areas with cadaver dogs, analyzed cell tower data, checked every camera within a mile radius. Nothing. The most promising lead had come from the couple's apartment. Rebecca's journal, found in her nightstand, contained a cryptic entry written 2 days before they disappeared. Jay believes he's right. Meeting confirmed for Tuesday. Not sure what to expect, but it's time to know for certain. What meeting? With whom? And what did Jason believe he was right about? These questions led nowhere despite extensive investigation. Maybe they wanted to disappear, Wilcox suggested, not for the first time. Witness protection? Secret lives we don't know about? Reyes shook his head. FBI ruled out witness protection. And these two were an open book. College sweethearts, close with family, active on social media, respected in their fields. He pulled out a photo taken from the Chen's apartment, Rebecca and Jason on a bench in Central Park, their special spot near conservatory water where he had proposed. The bench had been searched repeatedly, the area around it combed for evidence. Like everything else, it had yielded nothing. Tomorrow's the formal review, Wilcox reminded him. The case will probably be moved to inactive. Reyes nodded, the weight of failure heavy on his shoulders. In the morning, he would face the Chen's families again. See the hope in their eyes dim further as he explained that without new evidence, the active investigation would be scaled back. As predicted, the next day the case was officially classified as cold. The files were archived, the conference room cleared for new investigations, and the daily briefings ended. Detective Reyes was assigned to a new homicide in Midtown. Life moved on, as it always did in New York City. But in quiet moments, Reyes would still find himself thinking about the Chens, wondering what happened on that September morning in one of the world's most visited parks, how two people could step out of their normal lives and into oblivion. The years would pass. New cases would demand attention. But the mystery of the vanished joggers will remain, tucked away but never forgotten. Chapter 3. The discovery November 4th. 2023 Manuel Diaz had worked as a gardener in Central Park for 7 years. He knew every inch of his assigned section near conservatory water, tending to flower beds, maintaining walkways, and caring for the aging cherry trees that delighted visitors each spring. On this crisp autumn morning, Manuel was preparing a section for winter bulb planting near a row of benches. The area needed to be revitalized. Years of foot traffic had compacted the soil, and the recent Parks Department decision to enhance this section meant digging deeper than usual. His spade hit something solid about 18 inches below the surface. Probably a rock, he thought, or perhaps a piece of debris from the endless construction projects that had reshaped the park over decades. He dug carefully around the obstruction, then froze when he uncovered a corner of something metallic and rectangular. "Eddie," he called his co-worker, "come look at this." Together, they excavated what turned out to be a small metal box, roughly the size of a hardcover book. It was waterproof, sealed with some kind of industrial tape, and had clearly been deliberately buried. "Should we open it?" Eddie asked. Manuel hesitated. Better call the supervisor. Could be anything. Within 30 minutes, park security had cordoned off the area. When they carefully opened the box, they found a sealed plastic bag containing a USB drive, a handwritten letter, and a small velvet pouch. The bag had protected the contents from moisture, keeping them perfectly preserved. Park security, recognizing potential significance, contacted the NYPD. By early afternoon, Detective Sergeant Michael Reyes, now gray at the temples but still with the same intense focus, stood over the excavated box, a strange sense of déjà vu washing over him. It was buried near Bench 19, the park's supervisor explained. About 4 feet from the base, on the northeast side. Reyes felt his pulse quicken. Bench 19. He pulled out his phone and scrolled through old photos until he found what he was looking for. Rebecca and Jason Chen sitting on that very bench. Their special place. "This area needs to be treated as a potential crime scene," he instructed, already calling his former partner, now Lieutenant Wilcox. At the forensics lab, technicians carefully documented and examined each item from the box. The USB drive was functional but password protected. The velvet pouch contained 2 wedding rings, inscribed with initials that matched Rebecca and Jason Chun. And the letter, written in a steady hand, began with 5 words that sent chills down Rhea's spine. "If you find this, we're dead." Couple vanished while jogging in Central Park. 11 years later, a gardener finds this buried near a bench. Chapter 4. The letter detective Sergeant Reyes sat in the sterile forensics lab, gloved hands carefully unfolding the letter from the metal box. Lieutenant Wilcox stood beside him, her posture tense. The paper had been preserved remarkably well within its waterproof packaging. If you find us, we're dead, Reyes read aloud, then continued silently, absorbing the words that followed. September 16th, 2012 to whoever find this. My name is Rebecca Chun. My husband Jason and I are in danger. Tomorrow morning, we will go for our usual run in Central Park. I fear we won't return. For the past 3 months, Jason has been gathering evidence of massive financial fraud at his firm. A group of senior executives has been laundering money for the Kozlov Syndicate, over $300 million by Jason's calculations. He planned to take the evidence to the FBI this week. Last night, Jason received a call. The person didn't identify themselves, but knew details of our daily routine, where we shop, which route we run, even that I'd ordered Thai food for dinner. The message was clear. Accidents happen in the park all the time. We considered going to the police immediately, but Jason believes the corruption extends beyond his firm. We don't know who to trust. The USB drive contains all of Jason's evidence. The password is September Cherry 2008, the month and place we met, and the year we fell in love. If you're reading this, please deliver this information to FBI agent Daniel Hoffman. He's an old college friend of Jason's, and the only person we trust completely. Our wedding rings are included as proof of our identities. Please tell our families we love them. Rebecca Chin Reyes looked up, meeting Wilcox's stunned gaze. The Kozlov Syndicate, Wilcox whispered. Russian organized crime. Explains why we never found bodies, Reyes said grimly. These people are professionals. They immediately secured the USB drive, following strict chain of custody protocols. The cybersecurity team began working on accessing its contents, using the password Rebecca had provided. We need to find this FBI agent, Reyes said, already searching the database. Daniel Hoffman. An hour later, they learned that Agent Hoffman had been killed in a hit-and-run accident in October 2012, just weeks after the Chens disappeared. The official report called it a tragic accident, but in light of Rebecca's letter, it took on a more sinister appearance. This goes deeper than we thought, Wilcox said, pulling up records on Goldman Sachs executives from 2012. We need to tread carefully. The technical team finally accessed the USB drive. It contained meticulously organized folders with transaction records, offshore account numbers, communication logs, and detailed notes in Jason's precise financial analyst style. One document stood out, a list of names titled Key Players, featuring 12 senior executives and partners. Reyes cross-referenced the names. 3 of these people are dead. Apparent suicide, heart attack, and boating accident. Of the remaining 9, 7 have left the company and are scattered globally. Wilcox frowned. Convenient retirements or strategic disappearances? Either way, Reyes said, we need to notify the current FBI Financial Crimes Division. This is bigger than a missing persons case now. As they prepare to widen the investigation, Reyes couldn't shake the image of Rebecca writing this letter, knowing she might not survive the next day, yet still having the courage and foresight to create this time capsule of truth. 11 years late, justice might finally be possible. Chapter 5. Reopening wounds, a task of notifying the Chen's families fell to Reyes. 11 years had passed, but some wounds never fully heal. Elizabeth Chun, Rebecca's mother, now in her 70s, invited him to her Manhattan apartment. She had moved from California after the disappearance, unable to bear being so far from where her daughter was last seen. You found something, she said as soon as she opened the door, reading his expression with survivor's intuition. Reyes sat with her in a living room filled with photos of Rebecca at various ages, graduation, wedding, candid moments of a life interrupted. He explained about the buried box, showing her photograph of the contents, including the wedding rings. Elizabeth touched the image of the rings with trembling fingers. I always knew they didn't just leave. Everyone suggested they might have run away, started new lives. I knew my daughter. She would never disappear without a word unless. Her voice broke. Mrs. Chun, the evidence suggests they were targeted because of information Jason discovered at work. We're pursuing this as a homicide investigation now. Are you telling me my children have been dead all these years while those responsible walked free? The pain in her voice had hardened into something sharper. We don't have absolute confirmation, but Rebecca's letter indicates they expected the worst. Elizabeth straightened her shoulders. What happens now? We've involved the FBI. The fraud Jason uncovered appears to connect to organized crime. It's being taken very seriously at the highest levels. After leaving Elizabeth's apartment, Reyes met Jason's parents at their hotel. They had maintained their home in Chicago but traveled to New York regularly, never giving up hope. Their reaction mirrored Elizabeth's, grief rekindled, but also a desperate hunger for answers and accountability. Back at the precinct, the case had exploded into activity. The FBI had taken charge of the financial crimes angle, but the homicide investigation remained with NYPD. The conference room that had once held the original investigation was reopened. Dusty boxes of evidence retrieved from storage. Lieutenant Wilcox coordinated with the FBI, while Reyes focused on the likely murder of the Chens. He revisited old witness statements, looking for mentions of anyone who might have been following the couple. "We've got something," Agent Torres from the FBI announced late that evening. 2 of the executives on Jason's list just booked flights out of the country within hours of the discovery hitting internal channels. They were being monitored? Reyes asked. "We've had eyes on several of them for unrelated investigations. Now we know why they're running." As the FBI moved to intercept the fleeing executives, Reyes returned to Park. Standing near bench 19 in the darkening evening, he tried to imagine the final hours of Rebecca and Jason Chen's lives. Had they been abducted here? Followed home? Had they sensed they were being watched as they buried their insurance policy against oblivion? The bench had been replaced once in the past decade, but the location remained the same. Somewhere nearby, Reyes suspected, the answers lay buried. Perhaps literally. "We need to expand the search area," he told Wilcox over the phone. The Chens knew this section of the park intimately. If they buried one thing here, they might have left other evidence. Chapter 6. Breaking ground, the pre-dawn light cast long shadows across Central Park as the search team assembled. With special permission from the Parks Department, ground-penetrating radar equipment was brought in to scan a 50-yard radius around Bench 19. Detective Reyes supervised the operation personally, having barely slept. The case that had haunted him for 11 years had roared back to life, consuming his thoughts. "We got several anomalies," the technician reported after 2 hours of methodical scanning. 3 distinct areas showing potential disturbances below the surface. The first anomaly yielded nothing but an old construction debris pile, likely from park renovations years earlier. The second was more interesting, a waterproof bag containing a phone sealed in plastic. "It's an old model," the evidence technician noted, bagging it carefully. "Probably from around 2012, judging by the design." The third anomaly was located in a wooded area 20 yards from the bench, beneath a distinctive oak tree with a peculiar bend in its trunk. As workers carefully excavated the spot, tension built among the assembled investigators. 3 feet down, they found what appeared to be a small cooler, the kind used for picnics. Inside, preserved in airtight bags with oxygen absorbers, were a handheld video camera and a sealed envelope addressed to Mom and Dad Chun and Mom and Dad Watkins, Rebecca's maiden name. Reyes called both families immediately. Within an hour, they gathered in a conference room at the precinct, faces drawn with anticipation and dread. "We haven't viewed the contents," Reyes explained. "We wanted you to be present." The technical team had verified the cameras still worked and contained a single video file dated September 16th, 2012, the day before the Chens disappeared, the same day Rebecca wrote her letter. With the family's consent, Reyes connected the camera to a monitor. The screen flickered to life, showing Rebecca and Jason sitting side by side, Central Park visible behind them in early evening light. "Mom, Dad," Rebecca began, her voice steady despite the fear visible in her eyes. "If you're watching this, things didn't go as we hoped." Jason put his arm around her shoulders. "We're in trouble. I discovered something at work. Illegal activities involving very dangerous people. We've been threatened." Rebecca continued. "We have a plan to get the evidence to authorities tomorrow, but if something happens to us, we wanted you to know the truth and to say goodbye properly." For the next 10 minutes, the couple spoke directly to their parents, sharing memories, expressing love, and explaining why they had chosen to face the danger rather than run. "We could have disappeared," Jason explained, "changed our identities, hidden, but that would mean living in fear forever, and the people responsible would remain free to hurt others. We've made contingency plans," Rebecca added. "Evidence in multiple locations. This camera and our letter are insurance that the truth will eventually come out." The video ended with their final, "I love yous," and a lingering shot of them embracing before the screen went black. In the stunned silence that followed, Elizabeth Chin reached for Jason's mother's hand across the table. 11 years of shared grief had made them family to each other. "They were so brave," Jason's father said, voice breaking. Reyes gave them time to process before gently bringing up the sealed envelope. "Would you like to read their letter privately?" "No," Elizabeth decided after consulting the others. "We've carried this burden together for 11 years. We'll face their final words together, too." As Reyes carefully opened the envelope, his phone buzzed with a message from the FBI. "Two executives in custody. They're talking. Need you at Federal Building ASAP." The case was breaking open on multiple fronts. After 11 years of silence, the truth about what happened to Rebecca and Jason Chin was finally emerging from the shadows and from the ground where they had buried it, knowing someone would eventually find their carefully preserved testimony. Couple vanished while jogging in Central Park. 11 years later, a gardener finds us buried near a bench. Chapter 7. The truth emerges, a Federal Building hummed with activity as Reyes arrived. FBI agents moved with purpose. Computers displayed financial diagrams, and in separate interrogation rooms, the two executives captured at the airport were breaking down. "Richard Klein is giving us everything," Agent Torres reported, leading Reyes to an observation room. 11 years of guilt finally caught up with him. Through the one-way glass, Reyes watched a man in his 60s, once powerful, now diminished in a standard-issue jumpsuit, speaking rapidly to federal agents. "I didn't want them killed," Klein insisted, voice cracking. "We just needed the evidence destroyed." Kosalov's men went too far. The transcript appearing on a monitor told the story in real time. "Jason Chin approached me first, thinking I wasn't involved. He showed me transaction records, offshore accounts, said he was going to the authorities. I panicked, told Devlin and Mercer. They contacted Kosalov directly. What happened to the Chens? Kosalov sent 2 men professionals. They intercepted the couple in the park, forced them into a maintenance van. I don't know details, just that it was handled, and we needed to pay an extra $2 million for complications." Reyes felt cold fury building as he read between the lines. They knew exactly where to find them. Regular running route. Same time every morning. "The second executive, Mercer, has given us locations," Torres said grimly. "A property in the Catskills owned through shell companies. Search teams are on their way." By nightfall, the news reached the precinct. Human remains have been found buried on the remote property. Preliminary examination suggested 2 victims, male and female, with evidence of execution-style gunshots to the head. DNA confirmation will take time, Lieutenant Wilcox told the families gently. But personal effects found with the remains matched descriptions of items Rebecca and Jason were wearing when they disappeared. In the days that followed, the case expanded exponentially. The FBI arrested 5 more executives from Jason's list. 2 Kosalov syndicate members were taken into custody in Cyprus. Financial crimes units in 3 countries froze accounts totaling over $400 million. The phone found buried in the park yielded additional evidence. Text messages between Jason and Daniel Hoffman arranging their meeting, voice recordings Jason had secretly made of conversations with colleagues, and photos of documents that had since been destroyed. 11 years after vanishing on their morning run, Rebecca and Jason Chin had orchestrated their own justice from beyond the grave. The careful placement of evidence, protected against time and elements, had ensured that eventually the truth would be found. At the morgue, DNA tests confirmed what everyone already knew. The remains were positively identified as Rebecca and Jason Chin. "They can finally come home," Elizabeth Chin said, tears streaming down her face as Reyes delivered the confirmation. "After all these years, we can lay our children to rest." Chapter 8. justice and remembrance 1 year later. On a crisp autumn day, much like the one when the metal box was discovered, a small ceremony took place near Bench 19 in Central Park. The Chun and Watkins families gathered with Detectives Reyes and Wilcox, FBI agent Torres, and Manuel Diaz, the gardener whose discovery had broken the case open. A simple plaque had been installed on the bench. In memory of Rebecca and Jason Chen, who loved truth more than life itself, justice delayed is not justice denied. The criminal cases had progressed with unusual speed. 8 executives had been convicted of charges ranging from conspiracy to money laundering to accessory to murder. The Kosalov syndicate had been severely damaged by the financial revelations, with operations disrupted across 3 continents. Most significantly, 2 hitmen had been identified and extradited to face murder charges. One had turned state's evidence, providing detailed testimony about the Chen's final hours, how they had been abducted during their run, driven to the Catskills property, and executed despite their pleas. Rebecca and Jason knew the risks, Elizabeth Chen said, touching the plaque gently. Their letter to us explained that they could have run, hidden somewhere, but they chose to stand and fight in their own way. They were thinkers, planners, Jason's father added. Even facing death, they created a path to justice that extended beyond their lives. The families had established a foundation in the couple's names, providing resources for whistleblowers and support for families of victims of corporate and organized crime. Already, 3 major cases had been broken with the foundation's assistance. As the small gathering dispersed, Reyes remained by the bench, looking out over conservatory water, where model boats glided peacefully across the surface. You never really let it go, did you? Wilcox asked, joining him. Some cases get under your skin, Reyes admitted. I always felt we missed something. We did the best we could with what we had, she reminded him. They outthought everyone, the killers, the executives, even us. They knew their evidence would be found eventually. Manuel Diaz approached them hesitantly. Detective, the families gave me this. They wanted me to have it. He showed them a small replica of the plaque, fashioned as a paperweight. I told them I was just doing my job, but they insisted I was part of the story. You are, Reyes confirmed. If you hadn't been careful when you found that box, if you just toss it aside as junk. Every case needs someone who pays attention to details, Wilcox added. Sometimes it's a detective, sometimes it's a gardener. After Diaz left, Reyes and Wilcox walked through the park one last time, retracing the Chen's final route. The path was the same, but the city around it had changed in 11 years. New buildings pierced the skyline. New faces populated the pathways. Time marching forward as it always did. You know what still gets me? Reyes said as they reached the park exit. They'd buried those items knowing they were likely walking to their deaths the next morning. They could have run, called in sick, fled the city, but they stuck to their routine, knowing they were being watched. Because the evidence needed to be believed, Wilcox realized. If they'd disappeared any other way, their careful documentation might have been dismissed as paranoia or fabrication. They sacrificed themselves to make sure the case couldn't be buried, Reyes concluded. Now it never will be. As they exited Central Park, the same gate where security cameras had captured Rebecca and Jason entering on their final morning, Reyes looked back at the expanse of green amid the urban landscape. The park held countless stories beneath its surface, most never to be told. But thanks to a couple's foresight, a detective's persistence, and a gardener's discovery, this story had finally found its way into the light. The case of Rebecca and Jason Chun was officially closed, but their legacy of courage, foresight, and unwavering commitment to truth would continue through the foundation bearing their names and the lives changed by their final act of bravery. In the end, they had not vanished at all. They had transformed, from victims to whistleblowers, from the missing to the found, from silenced voices to a powerful testimony that even death could not erase. A decade after Rebecca and Jason Chen vanished during a morning run, a buried box near their favorite bench finally surfaced. Inside it, 2 wedding rings and a chilling note. If you find this, we're dead. If this case left you unsettled, click like. It helps more people discover these stories and stay aware of the mysteries that remain unsolved. And tell us in the comments, what do you think happened to the Chens? Was it something planned something sinister, or something no one can yet explain. We read every comment. Your theories help keep these cases alive. At Gone Cold, we share new real-life mysteries every week. We'll see you in the next video.